What's on your mind today?
The goal by Victor Osimhen was amazing.
The economy. Isn't that what's on everybody's mind?
I would like to see more women in positions of authority. If you heard and saw it from SEM you can take it to the bank. SEM your reliable source of news, information, and entertainment.
A lot is happening in Nigeria, and we're here to dissect those problems or those situations that calls for attention happening here in Nigeria. Welcome to News Surgery of SEM Morning Polls right here on SEM I am Vera Philip. Of course, I have a full squad with me this morning that will be dissecting topics in News Surgery. Francis Edit and Tammy. Thank you for joining, Tammy. Thank you for joining Francis Edit.
It's a pleasure.
All right, so we're going to start off with our story for today. Now, for News Surgery, we have outrage followed as alleged assault and arrest of 4 staff members of the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, Kwabam State, including the Deputy Chairman Medical Advisory, Ifyong Ekbe, a professor of cardiothoracic surgery, during an investigation involving the verification of a medical report submitted by a fraud suspect. Now, on Tuesday, operatives of the EFCC had stormed the facility and arrested a professor called Ifyong Ekbe, a professor of cardiothoracic surgery, and some other staff alongside with him. The incident happened on Tuesday, where the EFCC's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had also reported that the issue had happened. Now, reports say that EFC operatives arrived at the hospital premises in the afternoon, and there was an attempt to arrest a staff member, leading to resistance from workers and hospital personnel. Eyewitnesses who were at the hospital alleged that the operatives later called for reinforcement and that additional officers fired shots in the air to disperse workers who gathered at the scene. The operatives eventually took away Ekbe and 3 other staff members. Now, some persons were reportedly injured during the incident, while phones were said to have been damaged as workers tried to record the scene. We are going to take a video of where Chinon Sophie Delis, popularly known as a Aproko doctor, gave his own side, a detailed explanation of what happened in the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital on Tuesday when EFCC arrived. Let's take a look at this video.
Professor Eyo Ekpe was washing in for a surgery that he never did. Why? Because masked men from the EFCC entered the hospital, took out tinted bombs and fired tear gas inside the hospital. Patients ran, nurses ran, people on drips ran. According to NME, that's the Nigerian Medical Association, they beat this professor until he was bleeding from his forehead. Handcuffed him, dragged him outside the hospital with 3 other staff. Why? They wanted to verify medical reports, a piece of paper for somebody that committed fraud. Now, the EFCC has come out to say, we wrote 2 letters, but we didn't get any response. Fine. Let's say that that's exactly what happened. Let us assume that the hospital ignored every letter. Tell me, in what country does an unanswered letter justify tear gas in a ward? In what world does the answer to "we are not replying your emails" become poop marksmen with 2 buses into a place where people are fighting for their lives? There's a thing called court order. There's a thing called subpoena. There's a thing called the rule of law. None of these things require beating up a medical practitioner. And here's the thing nobody is even saying. Here's the part nobody is even saying. This Professor Ekpe had a patient on the table. We don't know that person's name. We don't know if they have children. We don't know if they made it. But we already noticed that the person is already a casualty. This person is one of the casualties of yesterday. Let me also tell you other casualties. Every other single patient who was supposed to be on the surgeon's list this week is casualty. The pregnant woman was supposed to be wheeled into a different theater when tear gas was fired in the corridor is already a casualty. The dialysis patient who could not get his dialysis done yesterday because staff scattered, casualty. The newborn in Niku, whose nurses ran to abandon them because of they are trying to save themselves, casualties. When you attack a hospital, you're not just attacking one man. You're injuring everybody he was about to save. You're injuring every other doctor in that building. It's simple maths. Simple. But there's even the longer one. We have less than 80 cardiothoracic surgeons for 220 million Nigerians. Other countries like USA has over 4,000 for 330 million people. Uyo has only one, which is this particular surgeon. The entire state has lost its surgery capacity in one afternoon because of the EFCC. So when a young doctor in Abuja is seeing this video now, 28, what do you want them to do next? Open their laptop and jackpot. We've lost that person too. We're not just losing Professor Ekpe today, oh. Yes. We're losing every other person, every other doctor who has watched this and decided that Nigeria is not safe for them anymore. How many doctors do we have in this country? So when your father has a heart attack at 3 a.m., when your sister goes into cardiac arrest during surgery, when your child is born and there's a hole in the heart, God forbid.
Okay, that is Chinonso Fidelis actually bearing out his grievances to what happened at the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital. However, speaking on the development, we had the public relations officer of the Nigerian Medical Association in the state, that's in Akwabom State, Dr. Gabriel Ayo, describing the incident as an attack on the hospital and its workers. Now, there is also the claim from the Commissioner of Police in Akwabom State, Baba Azere, who said that police officers only accompanied the EFCC officials to verify the operation after the hospital management contacted him. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, did allege that its operatives were the ones who were attacked and trapped inside the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, UUTH, while they went to visit the hospital linked to an ongoing fraud case involving a suspect accused of defrauding multiple microfinance banks in Akwabom State. Now, the anti-graft agency said the operatives had gone to the hospital just to verify a medical report that was submitted by the suspect, who is under remand by Justice M.A. Oyetunu of the Federal High Court in Uyo, after repeated attempts to obtain clarification from the hospital management reportedly failed. The statement that was made says that the EFCC head of Media and Publicity Commission did accuse some members of staff of obstructing lawful inquiries and attacking its officers during the visit. Now, the EFCC said that the suspect is standing trial over alleged fraud involving several microfinance banks, including the University of Uyo Microfinance Bank. So this is quite conflicting because, you know, we have two stories. The hospital management, the NMA, that's the Nigerian Medical Association, are saying that they were attacked by the EFCC. Now, the EFCC are saying that they were being held in the hospital premises by hospital doctors and medical professionals, and they were not allowed out of the hospital, which is very conflicting as well. Now, videos have made the rounds of, you know, tear gas being thrown in the hospital, you know, force being implemented by the EFCC to take Dr. Ekpe and his colleagues out of the hospital. Let's also put in fact the fact that Professor Ekpe is a cardiothoracic surgeon. As a matter of fact, the only cardiothoracic surgeon in Akwabom State. And at the time, it is reported that he was washing his hands to want to go into surgery room before the EFCC had arrested him. The NMA also accused EFCC of beating him to a pulp to the point where he was bleeding on his head. There's also a video of Professor Ekpe explaining his side of the story. We're going to take a few minutes out of that video right now to see what Professor Ekpe explained was the situation of things with him at the hospital during his arrest.
The official permission I got to travel for official engagement outside of Akwabom State. When I resumed on Monday, I added that responsibility with the clinical duties I had, teaching of resident doctors and also teaching of medical students on that Monday. I added the responsibility of confirming that medical report. I also had to invite the head of internal medicine department to look at that report because the diagnosis that the medical report carried was that of internal medicine, that is the medical diagnosis, and the head of that internal medicine department looked at the report and also discovered that the name of the doctor that signed the report is not a member of staff of that department. So with the other evidences that we got, it was easy to write a response for EFCC, and I did that on Monday, which was 11th of April 2026. 11th of May 2026, and on 12th of May 2026, that was yesterday in the morning, the EFCC personnel came into my office and they introduced himself. He came alone, introduced himself, and told me that he was coming to collect that response. I told him that the response was ready in drafts. I showed him the draft. I showed it to him, and he saw it. And I told him that what was left was for me to show to my chief medical director, who is the chief executive officer of this institution, before I would put it on it would be printed on paper, stamped and signed, and handed over to him. He pretended to have accepted that because he went out of my office barely 2 minutes after. He came in again, but this time around with another personnel.
Okay, so there's a lot going on, as a matter of fact. As I said earlier, there are like conflicting statements made both from the NMA, Professor Ekpe, and even the EFCC as well. Now, the EFCC said that the agency had written 2 letters to the hospital management dated March 11 and April 20th, 2026. We also see Professor Ekpe saying that he responded to the letter on the 11th of May, being a Monday, just before his arrest on Tuesday, 12th of May. They said there was a request to confirm the report, but no response was being received. Oyewale, who is a representative of the EFCC, did say that as a last resort, operatives of the commission visited the chief medical director of the hospital on Tuesday to make further inquiries, only to be locked in with a false alarm and subjected to unprovoked attack by misguided staff of the facility, who pelted them with stones and other dangerous objects. So they say that while within the hospital, the chief medical director of the UUTH reportedly directed the gates of the facility to be shut, making it impossible for any lawful inquiry to be made. Despite the tension inside the hospital, the EFCC also said that its operatives exercised restraint and eventually left the premises without disrupting activities at the facility. As I said, this is really conflicting.
Sorry, let me know if I allow you to lie. Do you believe the EFCC in Nigeria exercise restraint?
You know, the surprising part for me is the fact that they said the hospital staff locked them
up.
EFCC, who were accompanied by the police. That is very unbelievable. Why would the hospital want to pick a fight?
You want to know the
police?
funny thing? Even if, and I'm being the devil's advocate here, even if the EFCC were absconded, they were kidnapped, they were beaten and tortured, they have absolutely no right to raid a hospital the way they did. Even in times of war, countries at war with other countries have no right to attack schools, hospitals, and a lot of churches, places of worship. So for you to tell me that, oh, we sent a letter the first time, sent a letter the second time, we decided to reach out to them and they locked us up and beat. Are you talking to hoodlums? Are you going to discuss kidnapping even if that were the case, are EFCC officials not trained in precise co-op sting operations? Even if this were the case, were they not trained in, precise and decisive measures in order to infiltrate a place, extract the suspect without bringing, discord and chaos to the everyday running of a hospital? This is a hospital, for crying out loud.
Let me come to Francis on this, because we are both from Akwa Ibom State and this happened in Akwa Ibom State. What do you say about the silence of the governor regarding this? Because there have been no statements made by the governor regarding this particular incident, and it's made the rounds. It's been really trending on social media to the point where the police PPRO had to respond and be like, we only accompanied the EFCC down there. We did not go there to fight anymore. What do you think about the governor's silence on this matter?
Well, let me start with the reaction coming from the police spokesperson on behalf of the police commissioner, CPS Zara. First, they clarified they were not the one that made the arrest. They were not the one that caused the commotion that stormed the hospital in what could be termed as kidnappers style operation. Because first off, explain to me why a law enforcement officer would go into the hospital institution with covered faces as if they're kidnappers. When did EFCC started operating like kidnappers on the road or like bandits in the forest? That's the first question. Because even if the EFCC is saying, oh, we went into the hospital and we were locked, I can understand why doctors will lock you. You're not dressed as a law enforcement officer. You're not dressed in a way and manner that we know professional police or professional, law enforcement officers should be dressed. So the doctors are seeing a kidnapper. And don't forget, in today's society, we've seen throngs of medical personnel being kidnapped across the face of the Federation. So if they acted that way, which they did not, because in the course of the last 1 week, I've spoken with a couple of doctor friends from the University of Rio Teaching Hospital. By association, between 2017 and 2020, I lived in the hospital environment because of my then fiance. So I have a few connections. I have spoken to a couple of people. These things, whatever the EFCC is saying, is just a window dressing. It's a way of covering up what has happened. You storm into an environment as kidnappers and you expect a welcome party. Unfortunately, that would not happen. But that's not what transpired. What the EFCC did is just what we have seen happening across Nigeria. You write to somebody in an official capacity. We know the administrative bottlenecks in this country. Even as a journalist, when you write to government agencies to collect information or extract information, we know how long it takes. Sometimes you even have to go get a court order to be able to get those information. So you write to an official of an institution who needs to fact check himself before responding. And he takes his time, write a response and send it back to you. And instead of you to follow up with another correspondent, if you were not satisfied, to invite him to the office, you stomp the facility.
Keep in mind that he is the only professional of his field. So you can't expect him to have the time to want to address letters and so on and so forth. I just want to add that to what you were saying.
No, I'm not even looking at that particular aspect, because I know that a typical consultant who is a surgeon has a long list of operations.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that we don't have enough hands in Nigeria.
He's the only one.
He's the only one.
So, apart from him being the only one, even others who have other, larger numbers in their field, we still have serious issues. So, imagine somebody who has that line, that choked up, schedule of work, and then you're sending letters, and he's made out time to respond to the letter. And rather than follow up with the procedure, you're storming the hospital. And now, you're not just storming the hospital is a sacred institution that at no material time should any law enforcement officer enter to cause problem. Because you are risking the life of every individual in that hospital facility. Somebody who has high blood pressure and was possibly at the brink of death will die. The person that was scheduled for, like a procurement doctor said, everybody that was scheduled for surgical operations are at risk.
Even the newborn babies that have their nurses looking out for them would run to take care of themselves and save their own lives, putting them at risk.
You're putting every single patient at that hospital at risk. Because the thoughts will start flying. Are we being kidnapped? Is war coming here? What exactly is happening? Nobody knows. And then after that, you come out to offer a public press release to exonerate yourself. Now, unfortunately, I think this morning I saw a video where the Senate president reacted to the young man that was shot and killed, extrajudicial killing by the police officers in Enugu State.
Enugu State, yeah.
And I just laugh. It is not a time for us to observe 1 minute silence over extrajudicial killing. The time has come for the Nigerian government to rise up to the responsibilities, the leaders to rise up to the responsibilities. What do we do to criminals who are dressed in government uniforms? Because this is criminal activities. What happened to standard professional practices? Okay, we've given you a letter. You've responded. We're not satisfied with this letter. Can you come to our office? And the man looks at his schedule and says, okay, I can come on so and so day. And you come to an agreement. If all other measures fail, the court is there for you to get an injunction to mandate his presence
exactly
at your office. You did not explore that channel. You stormed and then dragged him out, dragged other people out. You see, Nigeria has become a lawless country that criminals dressed in government uniforms can do and undo. Tammy and Vera, let's establish certain parameters. Have you ever visited EFCC offices?
I have, indeed.
Did you see their lifestyle? The average EFCC staff earns about 150,000 naira. The highest is 800,000 naira. But I've never seen across the South-Southeast, the South-South states, in Abuja is even worse. You see young EFCC staff members driving cars worth 10, 20, 40 million naira. And you ask, where did they get that money from?
And nobody actually
Nobody questions them.
Exactly.
So these are criminals empowered by the Nigerian government because nobody is doing checks and balances for them. It's about time for us to call a spade a spade. And I would hope, if I were a medical practitioner in Nigeria, the first thing I would do is to sue the EFCC and every leadership across the board.
Well, we've already seen that happen. We're going to go on a quick break right now. We've seen there's so much to this. Of course, the NMA have also decided to sue the EFCC. We're going to come to that. But now we'll go on a quick break. When we come back from the break, News Surgery continues right here on SEM Morning Pulse. Don't go anywhere.
You are.
What is the matter?
I feel a little low.
I know what could help. SEM TV Morning Pulse. It's a good day to shine on SEM TV Morning Pulse.
Hey. Wake up, go shine. Go shine, go shine. Morning light, here we go. New day rising, feel the flow. From your world to what's ahead. Every story being said. Feel the rhythm, feel the call. We bring the moment, we bring it all. Wake up, go shine. Step into your light, your time. Feel the world come alive. SEM TV, rise and shine. Wake up, go shine. From the streets to the skyline. Every moment, every line. SEM TV, go shine. Shine. Go shine, go shine. Go shine, go shine. Go shine, go shine. From your health to what is new. From the trends to global views. Where the roads and where to go. Markets moving, let it show. Feel the rhythm, feel the call. We bring the moment, bring it up. Wake up, go shine. Step into your light, your time. Feel the world come alive. SEM TV, rise and shine. Wake up, go shine. From the streets to the skyline. Every moment, every line. SEM TV, go shine.
Still feeling low?
No, SEM TV Morning Pulse was just what I needed.
Welcome back to SEM TV Morning Pulse News Surgery right here on SEM TV. Now, before we went on that break, we were obviously dissecting the event that happened on Tuesday at the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital between the medical professionals at the hospital and the EFCC. Now, Francis has established in all manners, like whatever it is that the EFCC.
Is it time? I can't wait to see it.
Voice of the people, stories that matter.
Oh wow!
Truth in every moment, now and forever. Across every border, across every land, we form, we empower, together we stand.
We now return to regular programming.
All right, welcome back. Before that break, we'll hear dissecting what happened at the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital between the medical professionals and, of course, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, who went to arrest Professor Ifyong Ekbe. So before that break, Francis was obviously telling us about, in all manner and shape, how wrong the actions of the EFCC was. But then I also like to bring, obviously, the law in Nigeria actually states that arrest at the hospital is possible. However, you have to respect human rights, dignity, and not endanger lives at the hospital. So this is like a clear law in Nigeria. However, let's say, because according to Professor Ekpe, he said he replied to the mail on the 11th of May.
On Monday,
On Monday, which is like, the mail was sent to him according to EFCC March 11 and April 20th. That's two times in a row. And he didn't respond, and he responded May 11. That's on a Monday, like over almost a month later. And even before then, like, it's possible that EFCC did not see the response, because according to him, he sent it on Monday. So EFCC coming into the hospital, let's say that, the manner of explanations that the EFCC have given us is valid. Let's say that maybe they were being locked in the hospital and all of that by the medical professionals. What other measures do you think? Because there's really no law that has stated clearly that, if you're being restricted from making any arrest at the hospital, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. There are no laws to guide that. So does that vindicate the actions, even a little bit, of what the EFCC had done at the hospital?
Now, there may not be specific laws stating that, but one thing I do know is the law is very clear on excessive use of force. When the force you are using does not fit the scenario, and this is one of those situations. Now, common sense would state that if you need this person, if this person is, that important to your investigation, how can that person send a reply and you do not know? It's kind of like me looking for a job.
Let's not forget that Professor Ekwe said he sent the response
on Monday.
However, the EFCC have not confirmed the reception of that particular mail. So they could be acting under the "we haven't gotten your mail."
That makes absolutely no sense, because you cannot lie about sending a mail. If I send you a mail and I say I sent you a mail, I cannot lie about. I can literally show you that, look, I sent you the mail. And then, unless you want to tell me EFCC does not have network, or they have bad reception, or you want to tell me that perhaps the computer was turned off, because a mail cannot be restricted by network. And if EFCC wants to complain that, their data had finished or they did not have network, then shame on them. Because I see I see no reason why such a commission would lack access to good data connectivity and data speed, considering the fact that they work with, sharp information, they work with, on the spot accurate information. So if you cannot receive accurate information right on time, then what are you doing? So they have no right to say that they did not receive his mail. They have, like I said, they have no excuse to give. It's either they were lazy to check, or they had already made up their minds that, okay, since this guy don't take time to respond, I will go show and pepper. So that's the only reason I can see. Like I said, there is excessive use of force. Even when you go to the Constitution, I believe it's section 34, and it will tell you that every human being has their right to dignity. You cannot, even if the person is a suspect, you cannot even take them and drag them around the street and parade them and say, you are this, you are that. They can sue you and they can win. So not to talk of a professional individual who is about to scrub in for a surgery, and you go and cause chaos and bring about the possible loss of life and casualties in such a sacrosanct area. It makes absolutely no sense.
No sense.
To add to what Tammy said, in the course of practice, I've had different opportunities or instances where I had to write or reach out to the EFCC. Now I tell you, the response came back after a month plus. They're still there in my email box. So if EFCC would take a month plus to respond to a media request or a journalist asking a question about critical matter, the first time I wrote was during the 2023 general elections, prior, when the case between Senator Albert was a cause for concern. I wrote in the month of, I think it was in 2022 that I wrote around September. I got the response in October. So if the EFCC takes a month to write a response to people's complaints or reactions or requests from them, do they expect every other person to have lesser responsibilities on their hands to quickly respond? So the EFCC cannot say they did not get the letter. And if they insist or come out and say, we did not get a response from the doctor, it's a cover-up. But then there are another side of this conversation that questions are beginning to prop up. Is there some power tussle somewhere? Is somebody within the institution, because it's been linked to the University of Uyo and issues surrounding the university, because recently the University of Uyo has been under serious crisis. We've had them change and leadership, the VC position, up and down in the last 3 to 6 months. So there are some other concerns that people are raising. But coming back to the action of the EFCC, the question is, did they get a warrant of arrest?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the procedure, standard operations. First, you have to initiate.
Yeah.
You initiate and you don't get a response. The next thing is for you to apply to the court or subpoena the court, and then get the necessary documents. And the court will now reach out to the person, which we had highlighted at the beginning of this conversation. It is when all of these failed that the court will now say, use all means necessary
exactly,
to bring the person. And we never got to that point. So there is something the EFCC has not explained. And you asked a critical question, which I did not quite answer at the beginning. The Akwa Ibom state government has failed. Because this is the place, this is where we did His Excellency Governor Pastor Umoino to speak. I've not heard the comments coming from the Commissioner for Health in Akwa Ibom State. I've not heard the governor spoken. Now, this is the governor who came into power and said, look, because of what my family have experienced in the health sector, I want to prioritize the health sector. How are you prioritizing the health sector that government agencies will step into another government agency? ETH is a federal government establishment.
It is.
EFCC is a federal government establishment. So both personnel are staff of the Nigerian federal government. And then one agency moves into another without respect for the constitution and carries out those actions. The government has not spoken at the state level. We have not had a reaction at the federal level. And tomorrow you say this will not continue to happen. The reason why we have the brain drain in this country is because of things like this.
I mean, Aproko doctor even stated it that young doctors would see this, hear this, and why would they want to continue working in Nigeria?
So I'm going to progress it to the fact that the NMA have decided to take actions. You know, the NMA are now in a communique after they had an emergency meeting on Tuesday, and they agreed to institute legal action against the EFCC, and they are demanding for damages in the sum of 1 billion naira for the physical, emotional, professional, and institutional damage that was caused on Tuesday. Now, obviously, Nigeria is a peculiar country. I would like to use the word peculiar because, you know, on all normal circumstances, we're going to look at the possibility of them winning, but also saying that there's been so much silence regarding this from the government. What is the possibility that, you know, the NMA can go so far with this particular, you know, legal action they are planning to take against the EFCC? Francis, I'll come with you with that.
Well, the NMA that we know in Akwa Ibom, I may not have been around them for a while, but I know that they're strong individuals.
I must really commend them for the fast, you know, response to this.
I know there are strong individuals and professionals who love their job and who are committed to making sure that their welfare is given a priority. And I would take a mind back to 2019 when we had the COVID, where a police officer, you know, abused, physically assaulted a medical doctor who is, by all inclination, an essential worker. He was on his way to attend to a patient and was assaulted and abused. He ended up having a fracture on both hands. That police officer, the Nigerian police force in Akwa Ibom State, the Akwa Ibom State Police Command, was sued. And as a result of whatever damages was paid, but the officer who was responsible was demoted. So I know that when the NMA say we are going to pursue a case, they're going to pursue it to a logical conclusion. But that's on one side. I've heard comments coming from the likes of different barristers or lawyers in Akwa Ibom State who are already willing and beginning to queue up to take the case pro bono. Because an attack on a medical institution is an attack on everybody. You may not have been there at that material time, but what happens if you are the patient?
What happens if you were there?
Or if a family member was there? So it can happen to anybody. It's about time for us to understand that people who are given position of authority, those who are being paid by a collective wealth, should understand that just because you've been handed a gun, just because you've been given a uniform, does not mean you're superior to the next person, or does not mean you're above the law. And so these individuals should begin to act accordingly. So I support the NMA, and for every lawyer and legal professional who is already queuing up to take the case pro bono on behalf of the Nigerian Medical Association at Kwai Ibom State Chapter, congratulations to you. I do hope His Excellency Governor Pastor Omoino, I do hope the Commissioner for Health come out to address this concern. But whether or not they address the concern, I hope when they eventually come out, by the way, Vera, it is not to come out and say, oh, let us mediate, NMA, shit your sword. It is federal government office versus another federal government office. Let us not watch dirty linens in the public space. It is already in the public space. So there's nothing to cover up. I expect, and what most Akwa Ibomers are calling, is for the governor to speak, is for the commissioner to speak, and to condemn in totality, and even be on the part of the enemy. Because if we continue to have this happening, then we might as well just say hallelujah or praise the Lord and close the hospitals.
Okay, so Tammy, just before we wrap it up on the show, I would like to get your thoughts on what you think that the NMA should do, considering the fact that obviously they have been affected by this, but it's also been the health sector in Nigeria that has been affected. What do you think that they should do moving forward regarding the situation?
Well, when it comes to what they should do moving forward, I don't think the NMA itself has much to do, because most of this problem, it comes from the security agency, most especially the EFCC's conduct, during this situation. Now, if we were to, play the devil's advocate and assume that their claim that they were abducted and held captive by the hospital officials is true, then of course the NMA should also look into that, be sure to prosecute those that were responsible, because of course hindering an arrest is it's unlawful practically, even in the Constitution. So if the security agencies are coming about to carry out an arrest, a legal arrest, and the officers are stopped or hindered, it is unlawful. So of course the NMA should look into that if it is true. But if it is not true, then there's not much for the NMA to do. I believe that the federal government should focus on the conduct of the security agents. We've seen it in the police. Now we're seeing it in the EFCC. What will happen when the army decides that they also, DSS, of course, they want to misbehave as well? So I don't think the NMA has a lot to play, but the federal government and the state government, they have a lot to play to reinstitutionalize their police force and make them, more civilian friendly. Don't give them like as if they're going to go and fight. They're not fighting anyone. They're there to keep law and order.
All right, thank you so much, Tammy and Francis. I think I'm going to just leave with this. The health sector is a very important sector in every country, and in Nigeria, the health sector is one of the most important, if not the most important, as a matter of fact. Seeing an attack like that being taking place in the health sector or being taking place around the health facility is a slap on the face of Nigerians. It's also a slap on the face of our constitution and what we prioritize in the country. Now, in terms of EFCC, it is important that they get checked and balanced. EFCC are like the security agencies in Nigeria who make sure to keep law and order at the same time also protect the peace and lives and properties of other people. So the same people that are meant to protect the lives and properties of Nigerians cannot be responsible for destroying the lives and properties of Nigerians. So as a matter of fact, it is important for the federal government to step in at this point and address the issue.
Is it time? I can't wait to see it.
And that's it on New Surgery this morning. Stay tuned to SAM TV for all the amazing broadcasts that we will be bringing to your screen. I had Francis Edit in the studio with me. Thank you so much, Francis. Thank you, Tammy, for joining on the show. Most definitely. And I am Vera Philip. Enjoy the rest of your day.
SMTV.